I'm going to use this vlog style video to talk about what I want to talk about because there's a lot of things that are happening in the world, as everybody know. Like if you're a person, which good chance you are if you're watching this, uh, there's lots of things going on in the world, going wrong, going anything in the world, and I think there's a lot of unsaid things that I would like to possibly address while not looking too kooky and crazy and out of it while doing it. Now, I will fully admit my family's a little bit nutty and I talk to them. So I don't want to be that kind of person that just believes things because they're out there, because they're said. So you will find me being very skeptical, and I'm a bit of a fence rider when it comes to most conflicts. I won't be a fence rider for very specific like ideas and those concepts, but I do, at least I'm a fence rider up until we get the information. Because we're going to make this the focus of this video. I find that there's a lot of things out there that are left unsaid that we take for advantage, take advantage of. Geez, English, I should probably get it together here. But that we take advantage of, and I think a lot of people in power to take advantage of, and that personally I've been somewhat incentivized when I've been put in positions of power to take advantage of. And I'm going to use a direct example, one to one with this, of a place that I worked during COVID, because I think, to me personally, COVID kind of like broke my spirit in terms of trusting my environment around me and trusting the people around me. And it's not obviously because I don't trust the fact that people like things to be good for everybody and that there are good-hearted people, but I found that there were a lot of unsaid lies, and that when things were brought up as to whether or not they were lies, the responses were taken very personally, and so the actual issues weren't addressed. So I worked at a place downtown Vancouver. Just for professional sake, I'm not going to call out the exact location, because if you're an employer or whatnot, that's not my job. I'm not here to talk shit about you unless you're doing something like directly illegal, which people will have their opinions in the video from here, but we can get to that. So I was working in maintenance, and I was working moving garbage around, cleaning things up, fixing things, doing all the regular general maintenance stuff that you do at a building, right? Making sure things are clean, fixing pipes, fixing drywall, swapping out drawers, all that fun stuff. When COVID hit, there were two major things that happened. One was the workload went up. The demand from management was increased tenfold because, of course, they wanted everything clean. They wanted everything perfectly vacuumed, sanitized, uh, close off specific areas. Nobody can go in other areas. Personally, I like things that clean. I was like, oh wow, this is relatively decent for a while. There was no garbage sitting around, human shit and stuff like that was cleaned up right away. That was a good one. And after about a week or two into COVID, I realized we just had a whole bunch of people quit or at least leave because of COVID. So, and only that too, they cut the staff down to a certain amount in the building in certain areas at a time so that we all, obviously didn't spread COVID around. Now, this is the point when we knew nothing about what this danger was. And I will point out right away, almost everybody in that building was critical of whether or not COVID was a real thing. Now, at that point, I'm looking around and thinking, how is anybody qualified to have an opinion on this? Now, I had a manager too, who's wonderfully racist and like blatantly out so, and just his opinion, he just made sure everybody heard his opinion, and he blew his lid when anybody had a different opinion than his. The funniest fucking response I had ever, I was cleaning out the garbage and I was dealing with all the maintenance stuff because we had a higher workload. We had to do more, clean more, do all sorts of stuff. When I got back to the shop where he was, I take the sanitizer out and I start sanitizing my hands and my arms because I took the garbage from like hundreds of people in one little area, compacted it, and put it away. He looks at me and he goes, "This is hand sanitizer, not arm sanitizer." And I'm looking back and I'm going, you know, I had my whole freaking body deep in garbage piles. And I'm putting this damn sanitizer over everything. Right? Like that's what I'm gonna do. I didn't say anything. I was like, oh yes, sir. But I'm still going to put the freaking I just couldn't believe it. And what gets to me, and this is stuff that happens in the corners of the world where you don't really see it. What gets to me is that I had a whole bunch of other immigrants who didn't really have any say in how things were set up. So that when my dumb boss said, hey, go do this, don't do this, don't do that, don't clean that, they just did it. Now, the requirement was that we do more cleaning, that we just do, across the board, do more cleaning. But management, of course, they didn't believe it was a real thing. We just didn't do it. I remember sitting there in the lunchroom with one of the ladies while she's checking off the boxes saying, I clean this, I clean this, I clean this. I'm talking with her. She's like, I didn't clean any of this. I didn't sanitize anything on this list. And she's being forced to. Why? Because she has to, or else she loses her job. She can't just go, I'm not going to do it. Management said, oh yeah, we're going to do it. So they got to have a checklist of things to do. The upper management, they'll look at the checklist. If I went to them, they'd be like, well, we have everything recorded. It all looks like it's properly been done. So there's no possible way for anybody that's involved with the running of the company to actually get information up to the higher ups. And I don't even think the higher ups cared. Because to them, the only thing that mattered was that their area was clean. So they guaranteed their houses were clean and that their area, but they didn't care about the rest of it. It's not that we're lying individually about any institution doing one thing or another. This is what gets really frustrating. It's not that the individual companies and the individual employers and employees are going, well, we could say that checking boxes off and saying that things were done was lying, but that's not an official checkbox. There's no like law that says that that checkbox has to be there, right? It's just that all of these little like gaps of misunderstandings, like my direct order was not to put sanitizer on my arm. And I'm looking at the boss, I'm like, are you the professional here or am I the professional? Are the cleaning ladies the professional or are you the professional? But for some reason, you, the professional, are making these decisions. The boss is making these decisions. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. He doesn't see anything because he doesn't even believe it's a real thing. We're reporting that it's been done, but it's not illegal to report wrong things higher up the chain in these companies. There's just not a law. Then the company themselves are reporting the base level things that they have to the government, to whatever they're doing. I think a lot of information is being lost along the way. And it's because a lot of low-level workers are not skilled enough and not certified to be able to tell the employers, hey, we shouldn't be doing it this way. We're seeing this across the board in a lot of different companies. I've worked for a lot of different companies now. I got friends that work for a whole bunch of different companies. Everybody says the same thing about companies nowadays. I'm going to use a little bit of, it's just my guess, it's really just my guess, that it has become because of how many layers of separation there are between the person itself and the institution that they're running. The world, I think it's about 7 layers of separation. You're basically 7 hops away from other people. But for some reason in our institutions and in our companies, we've added more than 7 hops of information. So what can happen is somebody who's not certified can lie because they're not responsible for anything. And for example, too, also, if I get told to go fix something at a company and I don't know how to fix it, it's on me to fix it. But my job, technically, if you really think about it, is not to actually fix the thing. It's to make it so the customer no longer complains. And if the customer doesn't complain, I've done the job. If you look at the incentives of all of the different companies and all of the different ways that we've built things, we've built for the report. And this whole world seems to be built that way recently. My guess is it's like this incentive for wealthy people to feel wealthier because there's like the infinite growth kind of theory where it's like we're on a finite planet. There's only so much growth. So when you get to a point where like the physical wealth when you can't like get better wealth out of what's existing, you have to either be significantly more efficient and make more things, or you pretend to be more efficient. Now, not to be too much of a historic bug, but we have seen countries collapse because they all focus on presentation. The Soviet Union was one of those institutions that eventually was just all about the outward presence, the outward look of what they were doing. Historic buffs can go back to and quote me on this and try and actually figure out the exact. But for a while, during the takeover of Stalin, they were overpacking trains. And what and they were overpacking trains because the managers wanted to push production. Now, of course, the inefficiencies of communism and whatnot really, like, it made it hard in the first place because some trains were underpacked and some trains were overpacked. But due to the inefficiencies and the management making certain decisions, they pushed the level of like what they would consider safe. And because everybody signed off on it, it's like, yeah, this is safe. The idea was, yes, everything is working correctly, but if you went out into the average city or average town that was in control by, I guess, the USSR at the time, they weren't doing very well. Yet by all metrics, by all on paper metrics, things were good. To me, this looks as like, well, we're just ignoring a lot of these issues. And there's so many things. There are so many jobs. I do not trust, even like when I get my food made at like McDonald's, I don't trust the whole process because I know that I'm paying for the experience of eating a burger, but that burger might not be a real burger. There could be so many steps that have been skipped along the way that check marks have gone, yeah, that's good. I could be eating burger flavored cardboard. And the joke is that kind of I am. I'm going to argue that hopefully the free market kind of takes care of that. But here in Canada too, we're not that, my thoughts on what the market is doing right now is very different. I'll go into that in another video and seem a little crazier there, but I don't know. If you're a blue collar worker and you've listened to this whole thing and watched this whole thing, or if you're getting into the workplace, I know I have got a younger gaming community of people. I like, well, younger. We're all old now. We're 20s and some 30s and 40s. But actually 60s. One probably almost that. I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyways, just comment below. Tell me what you think. Oh yeah, basically, if you've been in the workforce, dealt with the workforce, and even to like, just, are you an expert in anything? Are you really knowledgeable in one specific thing? My camera's jiggling. Let me fix this. What's been your experience over the past few years? Because I think everything sucks. Everything really sucks. And I hate going to work and sucking at my job. I really hate doing it. But I get forced to it. And I can't tell the boss I suck at it and get or else. And the argument is, oh well, you know, you got to, and they'll give you training. They don't give you training. This is the lies all the way up. You go to a company, they say, hey, we gave you training, but you know what the training was? It was like 30 seconds of somebody going, that's there, that's there, that's there. It's like, is that training or is that telling? Because we know there's a difference between telling and training. But the stuff that's being swept under the rug, the stuff that's not being told, is that it's not real training. It's a checkbox. And so I suck at my job. Some jobs I'm really good at because I know I'm skilled at and I understand. But I suck at a job. I get put on a job, and the boss doesn't even give a damn if I did it properly or not. He cares that the customer doesn't call him later on. Thank you guys for watching. I can go on forever about this. Leave it in the comments below. I want some discussions. I'm getting frustrated. I know you guys are getting frustrated too. And maybe possibly it's just my expectations are too high. But I don't think my expectations are too high. I feel like maybe it's because I was young, but I feel like 10, 15, 20 years ago, and there's also reasons why. I'm not going to say it's a fair trade, but here in North America at least, things were quality for a while. Just for a while, for a short period. And they started dropping off. All right, guys. Have a great one. I'm out.